Widely known as the quintessential American sports car, the Chevrolet Corvette has always had a loyal fan base. However, Chevrolet didn't really start winning over European buyers until they introduced the C7 Vette back in 2014. This week, the company has sent me over the latest version of the Corvette family. Let's take an in-depth look at this 2018 Grand Sport convertible. Over the years, I've been pretty fortunate to be able to test several versions of the C7 Vette. If you guys follow the channel very closely, you'll know that this is the third Corvette loan I've had for a week over the last 3 years. Now, the first one was just a Stingray convertible with the 6-speed automatic. The second one I had was a Stingray Coupe Z51 with the 7-speed manual. I really liked that car with the manual, with the white exterior and the removable top of the hardtop model. Now, this time Chevy has loaned me the Grand Sport convertible equipped with the new 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, if you guys are pretty unfamiliar with the Corvette family, you'll know that the Grand Sport slots in the middle. There's above the Grand Sport, there's the Z06 with the supercharged V8 that I showed you in the CTS-V, and then below at the base level, there's the standard Stingray. Now, the Grand Sport, what it does is it takes the wider body and upgraded handling capabilities of the Z06 and pairs it with the more manageable power levels of the Stingray. So you just have the standard 6.2 naturally aspirated V8, still making 460 horsepower. Now, the Grand Sport's design hasn't really changed much versus the standard C7. I mean, Chevy's probably getting ready to give this car a refresh. You guys know that they are currently working on the Z8 model, which is rumored to be going to a mid-engine design as opposed to the front-engine rear drive layout of this current model. Now, the front end doesn't look any different really. You still have standard LED daytime running lights with bi-xenons. I imagine GM will probably upgrade these to LED headlights when they refresh the Corvette. My tester has what GM calls an exposed carbon fiber package. That's actually new for 2018. It makes it look like basically a Z06. It's got the carbon fiber front splitter, side rocker panels, and the rear diffuser, along with the functional carbon fiber rear spoiler that definitely makes this car look far more aggressive, far more track capable. Now, this car is very wide. It's about 3.5 inches wider than the standard Stingray. When, if you guys know Corvettes, they're already pretty wide vehicles. So this, to me, when I started driving it, felt a little too wide, especially for some of the narrow roads that I do drive some of these press vehicles on. Now, you can see at the sides, these are 19-inch wheels in the front, 20-inch wheels in the back. These are actually the standard wheels, the 5-spoke wheels you get on the Grand Sport. You can choose from like 5 different finishes, ranging for up to $2,000 extra. The silver finish to me looks a little bit boring, along with the blade silver color. I much prefer the Grand Sport in its traditional heritage color known as Admiral Blue with the white hood stripe and then the red fender hash marks. Now, the tires are upgraded versus the standard Stingray. These are 285s in the front, 335s in the back. So these actually are probably the widest tires I've driven on a press car to date. They definitely make this car feel like it's glued to the road. It literally feels like I'm driving on chewed up gumballs, honestly, when I'm, piloting this car down the road. Now, my tester is missing the Z07 package. Even though it does look like it has it, the Z07 package is $8,000 extra. It rolls in Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, which are, if you guys know, are basically a street legal race car tire. These are just the Pilot Super Sports. They also roll in carbon ceramic brakes and then the upgraded magnetic ride control dampers. Now, my tester does have the carbon ceramic brakes. It's new for 2018 as a standalone option. It's about $7,500. Honestly, I'd probably just skip it, just go for the entire Z07 package and get the magnetic ride control dampers, as it does improve the ride quality of this car tremendously. Now, back, you still have the same controversial taillights, which are full LEDs. A lot of Corvette faithful definitely didn't like it when GM got rid of the traditional oval taillights. I think the design has aged very well. I really prefer the dark, clear finish that you get on the Z06 as opposed to the red finish. But overall, I think the design of the Corvette has aged well. It still looks very much like kind of a shark mixed with a Ferrari. It gets a lot of stares on the road. I mean, even though the Corvette's been around for 3 years, I still had lots of little kids just waving at me and calling out, "Hey, what is that car? It's such a pretty aggressive looking car." So if you guys are looking looking to get noticed, the Corvette is still definitely one of the vehicles that's going to do that for you. But enough about the exterior. Let's take a look at the inside and see if Chevy's made any changes for 2018. When you first approach your Corvette, you'll notice that every model will come standard with the company's smart key access system with push button start, smart entry. It's got remote start as well. This is the old GM key fob. I really think it's time for Chevy to kind of update the key. There is a newer key fob that I've tested on some of their other products, but to activate the remote start, just push the lock button and then push and hold this button until the vehicle starts up. And you can hear it's pretty quiet right now because I actually have it in touring mode where it actually closes a baffle in the exhaust. It's much louder if you guys leave it in sport or track. To shut the engine off if you want, you can just push and hold the button again, and that will shut off the engine for you. Now, when you first approach the Corvette, just like all the other models I've showed you, there's actually no door handle here, and it's definitely confused a lot of people when they first approach it. Instead, there's a little pressure pad that you can feel when you stick your finger in there. To open the door, just kind of push it when you have the key on you, and it will unlock the door for you automatically. There's actually no button on the outside of the door to actually lock the car, so I found that kind of annoying because I had to use the key fob, you know, to basically lock the door if I needed to, instead of just using a button. It doesn't also have the walk-away lock function that some of the other cars that I've tested have. Now, when you look at the interior, you can see the Corvette's interior hasn't really changed much. These are the standard seats. They have black leather with some contrasting stitching. You can also get different colors. I would prefer the red leather. That's actually my favorite, especially with this kind of more bland blade silver exterior color. Now you can see the Grand Sport's interior is pretty similar to the Stingray's. The flat bottom wheel was actually new for 2016. It's a nice steering wheel. I much prefer this newer steering wheel versus the earlier C7 models. Now, the Corvette's very low, so if you guys don't like getting in low cars, you're not gonna really like this, but stepping inside the Corvette, you can see it's a very, very low slung car. So those of you who don't like that, again, you're going to pretty much hate this. But once you do sink into the car, it's very comfortable. The seats, they hold you in place very well. These seats, as I said, are the standard ones. There's also like a competition seat that kind of gives you even more aggressive bolsters. If you guys are looking for something like that. Now, when you shut the door, it still sounds pretty solid. This is a newer platform, of course, so the door sounds good when it shuts. Now, to start the engine up, just put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire it up. Now you can hear the gauges, or you can see the gauges do a nice sweep. There's an LCD display in the center here that is interchangeable. It's linked to basically the drive mode. Right now I currently have it in its sports setting, of course. When you take this little controller knob here, switch it over to the right, you can see it'll go over to sport mode. And you can hear a baffle actually opens up and the gauges actually change there, so that's pretty nice. And then when you start revving it, oh yeah, I missed that sound. I never get tired of listening to a Corvette's, small block V8. It makes really, really nice noises. It's gonna wake up, the kind of noise that basically wakes up your neighbors and just, makes us all children, basically, when you start driving this. Now, my tester is the highest trim level of the Grand Sport. This is the 3LT package. It basically gives you the upgraded stitching that you see here, and then Napa leather on the interior. I don't personally think it's worth it. You do get the performance data recorder and nav as standard, but it's a pretty big step up to go to the 3LT. I would probably just stay with the 2LT to get the heated and cooled seats. That's probably something that I would want. And then the head-up display, which is nice. Then you also get the 10-speaker Bose audio system. But you can see the interior of this current C7 Vet has pretty much gotten a lot of praise. This is a lot nicer than the old interior qualities of the, the Corvettes of yesteryears. But I do think that there are some things that GM could change when they refresh this. Now, first of all, lots of nice stitching on the upper door panels here. It's basically all throughout the door panel. Soft leather here where your elbows are going to rest. You have two-person memory seats. The window switches, they feel nice and solid. It's one touch for both windows, so that's pretty nice. The dashboard is also all leather stitched. Everything in here, is pretty high quality materials. You have real aluminum trim accenting the shifter and this little grab handle here for the passenger side. There are some plastics in here that are a little bit on the cheaper end. Now, if you guys don't get the carbon fiber interior package, you just get this kind of cheap black plastic trim accenting the rest of the console. And then, of course, the paddles here, I wish they were column mounted, and I wish they were made of a material that was like aluminum, kind of what I experienced in the Giulia QV, which had one of the best paddle shifters I've ever experienced. Now, some of the controls in here, the switch gear, are also the older GM switch gear. You can see the turn signal stock is the older switch gear. Some of the buttons in here are the older switch gear. It doesn't feel quite as tactile and premium as the newer switch gear. And then I noticed some quality issues here. There's this like button here for the mapped light. You can see it's not really lined up flushly with the actual display. I noticed that in the other Corvettes that I drove as well. And then my tester has an annoying rattle from this portion right here when the top is up. I didn't really notice it when the top was down, but again, kind of annoying when you spend this kind of a money on a Corvette. But the rest of the materials, you can see my tester, because it's a 3LT, has this suede Alcantara headliner. The top is made of a very nice high quality canvas material. It's a soft top, as you guys know, but I mean overall the interior definitely is nicer. I really do hope GM kind of puts their newer switchgear and kind of addresses some of the fitment issues that I'm seeing here and there, and that rattle in the back. But again, my tester could just be a fluke. I don't know if you guys are also experiencing the same thing. Now, looking at the center console here, you have the Chevrolet MyLink infotainment system. This is kind of the older system. You do have Android Auto and CarPlay, which was added in 2016. The screen still flips down so you can store your drugs back there and just hide stuff behind the screen, which is pretty cool. There's also a USB port in there. It's also lit up, and it's lined with felt in there. Now, the screen, as I said, the graphics are the older style graphics. When you go to the home screen here, you can see they don't look quite as crisp as what I've showed you in some of the newer Chevy products. You do at least have, all your usual sources in here. You have 4G LTE, it's a wireless hotspot. The camera, you have front cameras that are also included on the 2LT package that give you like a curb camera. And then of course PDR is the performance data recorder. If you guys want to take it to the track, it actually has a camera in the windshield here that will record, all your track times and your actual lap out there. Now, this head unit is fine. I just found that because it's the older system, it doesn't respond quite as quickly to my press of wherever on the screen. I found that I had to press it multiple times to get the right one, and it also lagged a little bit at times, which is a little bit annoying. The nav display here, you can see it's nothing too fancy. It's the traditional head unit here that you've seen. It doesn't have the proximity sensor like the Cadillac Q system, so when these icons go away, you have to actually touch the screen to make them come back, which is fine. I do think that I would like to see GM updated with the newer graphics, the faster display. This is the older one, as I said, but of course the Corvette is due for a refresh. Now, when you put the vehicle into reverse, you get a backup camera, of course. It doesn't have any parking sensors. It does have trajectory. The camera quality is a little bit grainy, and then you can see here when I put it into drive, you can see there's the front curb camera that I've shown you in the past, so you can kind of keep you from curbing the front end. This is one of the lowest vehicles you'll ever drive. I found myself painfully scraping it on areas where I normally wouldn't scrape, even on other low-slung sports cars pretty much. Now, looking at the rest of the center console, you have dual-zone automatic climate control, heated and cooled seats. The buttons and knobs here, they feel pretty nice. I found myself always adjusting this knob here for volume when the volume knob is actually up here, so I kind of wish that they would flip that when they refresh it. This is the new 8-speed automatic, of course. It has a traditional PRND gate with an M manual mode. There's no manual mode here. You have to use the paddle shifters. The Grand Sport model, of course, will remind you of that with this nice Grand Sport badge that shows the original Grand Sport model from the 1960s, I believe. Over here you have a nice little power outlet. There's cup holders here. Storage is a little bit lacking. There's an electronic parking brake. Your really only big storage area is right here, which, as you can see, fills up pretty quickly. There are 2 USB ports over here and another power outlet along with an aux port, so that's pretty nice. The glove compartment is a decent size. It's lined with felt, it's damped, and overall, the visibility in here is definitely going to take some getting used to. There's no driver assistance tech. That's what the Corvette's lacking. There's no blind spot, no rear cross traffic alert, no automatic braking, no lane keep assist, no automatic emergency braking or adaptive cruise. So you're basically on your own. You're left to drive this Corvette, which is fine with me, although its competitors are starting to offer those features, so I imagine Chevy needs to actually offer it later if they want to stay competitive. Now, when you look at the trunk capacity, you can see the convertible gives you about 10 cubic feet of space, which is about 5 cubic feet less than the coupe. And it's a pretty big amount of space. The floor itself is just very narrow. It doesn't go very deep, but it's a very wide vehicle, so you have decent amount of space. Now, the top actually goes down in about 20 seconds. It doesn't take up any space. This panel here will move out of the way, and then the top will kind of go into its little portion that's basically right behind the driver's seat where a rear seat would go. And I think the top is a little bit slow to go up and down, but you can actually operate the top at speeds up to 30 miles an hour, which is definitely nice. One thing that I really like also is the rear deck, the hatch. You just kind of have to click it, and then it soft closes for you, so that's pretty nice and convenient. underneath the clamshell style hood of the Corvette, you're going to find the familiar LT1 6.2 liter V8. Now this motor was all new for the C7 back in 2014. It's got direct injection. It's still a pushrod motor. It still only has 2 valves per cylinder, but it has direct injection and it has variable cylinder management, so it'll shut off 4 cylinders to save gas. Now the numbers are 460 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. You get that higher output number when you guys have the performance exhaust, which this car has. It's standard on the Grand Sport, optional on the lower Stingray trims, of course. Now, this car actually gets decent fuel economy if you guys, don't get hard on the gas. It's rated at 16 in the city and 25 on the highway with the 8-speed auto. Surprisingly, the 7-speed manual gets 1 mpg better on both accounts, so the manual is actually the more efficient model. That's probably the one you want to get anyways, although the convertibles tend to ship out more with the automatic transmission. Now, the Corvette convertible weighs around 3,400 pounds. It's pretty light by sports car standards. 0 to 60 times around 3.7 seconds with the 8-speed automatic. This car is only rear-wheel drive. It has a limited slip differential. Let's get out on the road and see how it performs, shall we? So first, settling into the 2018 Grand Sport convertible, I've gotten pretty accustomed to the C7 Vettes and how they drive. Love the way they drive, love the way they look, love the engine noises that the standard 6.2 makes. However, the Grand Sport definitely feels a lot wider. That's what I'm noticing right away. That's definitely good if you guys plan to actually track this vehicle. It feels like it sticks to the road, but let's get it out there and see how it actually accelerates and see how it puts the power down. So I'm gonna leave it into its sport mode here, and we're gonna floor it. Holy crap! Oh, I missed that. I seriously miss that noise. That noise is it's just fantastic. I love the sounds, the way it feels, and honestly, I'm noticing immediately how much better the Grand Sport puts power down versus the standard C7 Stingray that I had a couple times. That car definitely got a little bit tail happy. This one, you can feel the back end. It wants to step out, but it just kind of does a little bit of a hop. The electronic limited slip differential helps put the power down well. And honestly, this feels like a really manageable car. It doesn't scare me as much as the Stingray did with the narrower tires. I haven't really had a chance to drive a Z06 too much, but I imagine the Z06 with its extra 200 horses is going to make this car even more scary. It's going to be even more of a hairy-chested car. But again, Corvettes have always been a very masculine car. This one is no different. I seriously feel like I grow some chest hairs on my chest, and I don't have any chest hairs, so every time I drive a Vette, it's basically how it makes you feel. This is definitely a car that doesn't suit my personality, if you guys know me well, but I can appreciate it a lot. It's a really cool car. It's a really super heroic-like car that gets a lot of attention. And surprisingly, when you drive it down the road, it's really easy to drive, aside from the fact that you do notice just how much wider this model is compared to the standard Vette. I would really probably just go for the standard one because I don't like how much wider it is. It's harder to manage on tighter roads. Now, Corvettes do have a launch control system, which you can actually access when you put it into its track mode here. It'll put into a track mode here, it'll change the gauge display. You double tap the stability control button, and then you go into a performance traction management. You put it in any of the modes. I believe Sport 1 is probably the best one. And this is where you can basically just hold the brake and then floor the accelerator. It'll actually rev up the engine to about 3,500 RPM, and then you release the brake, and then it'll take off. Holy shit! This is seriously like a roller coaster. I would never get tired of flooring Corvettes, and this is exactly why I've gone through 2 tanks of gas in my week's worth of testing with this car. But when you put it into that mode, you floor it. The 8-speed auto makes it really easy. Honestly, this car should get to 60 in about 3.6 seconds. It feels pretty much every bit as fast. The noise this thing makes is just incredible. It's the kind of noise that's really going to piss off a lot of your neighbors, or if they're car people, they may actually like the noise of it that it makes. It's just really, really nice. Now, because this car is, it's got all the Z06 handling upgrades, you really feel it when you guys are going through some back roads here. I'm gonna actually put the transmission into its manual mode here, and we're gonna shift it manually because I find the 8-speed auto tends to seek out its top gear, but it's just incredible. This car doesn't even have the Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, so it doesn't even have the stickier wheels, but when I'm going through corners, it's incredible how direct the steering is. It talks to you, it's alive, it's super quick ratio. And then when you go around some tight turns here, you really feel the intense stickiness of these tires. These tires are just like chewed up gumballs, as I said. They're incredibly sticky. Basically the limits of this car are not, I'm not gonna reach them on public roads. You're really gonna have to take this out to a track to feel just how incredibly, sticky and solid this car is. And because my Tesla has the upgraded, performance brakes, when you slam on the brakes, my God, it's seriously just like will basically have your eyeballs fall out of the sockets, because it's super strong brakes. And then I found that they're a little bit grabby in normal traffic, so you do have to get used to the brakes if you guys aren't used to brakes that are this strong feeling. I love those firecracker bang, like gunfire shifts when it shifts. It's just fantastic. Now, I think it sounds like a farting noise, but within the Corvette, it's a little bit more like a gunshot's going off. It's just a really fantastic noise, and it's one of the reasons why I leave it in manual mode all the time, so I can just floor it and listen to those freaking shifts when this thing bangs off gears. It's just fantastic. And even at like higher speeds, slam on those brakes and my God, this thing just seriously face ripping thrust, and then it's gonna make you sick. It's gonna make your passenger sick every time you slam on those brakes hard. Woo. Unfortunately, I can still hear that rattle going off. I'm gonna drive with the top up most of this time, or this whole time, because it's like over 90 degrees outside, but I also wanted you guys to hear the rattle. Kind of annoying. Hopefully this is kind of just a fluke with my tester, because I would be pretty pissed if this was my car and it rattled like that. Oh, it's just incredible. Now, one thing I will talk about with this 8-speed automatic, it is an improvement over the old 6-speed auto, but I found that the 8-speed tends to get caught up in its higher gears to try to save gas. And with the paddles, when you guys are using the manual mode, as you guys saw, if you don't flip the paddle is a little bit slow to respond. If you don't shift it at the right time, it'll bog, and then it'll kind of cut power as you go past the red line, and it kind of just ruins the whole momentum here. So you guys have to get the shifting right, or you have to really, be heavy on the gas, because with 8 speeds, it's constantly trying to get into its top gear to get the best gas mileage possible. But when you are driving it normally, you can see the ride quality on smoother roads is not bad, but keep in mind, when you guys don't get the magnetic ride control dampers like my tester, it can be pretty rough when the road pavement gets pretty crappy. The visibility in here is also not bad. The hood, you have to get used to all those curves and whatnot. The mirrors are pretty small. Out of the back, though, it's terrible. With the top up, the blind spots are immense, which is why I'm complaining about the fact that this car doesn't have blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. It has no driver assistance whatsoever. I think it's time that GM actually adds it to help out the kind of buyers who actually do purchase this thing. It just helps drive it a little bit easier. It takes some getting used to. Now, fuel economy. I know a lot of you don't terribly care too much with a Corvette, but I've actually been averaging around 17 miles per gallon in my 500 miles of driving. Now, on the highway, I was able to push it to around 24 miles per gallon. So if you guys put it into its eco mode and just kind of be very, very responsible with the throttle, this thing will get pretty good gas mileage. Now, the price of a Corvette. Corvettes have always been pretty good value, and the standard Stingray starts at like $55,500. Add $10,000 for the Grand Sport model. Honestly, I think that's a bargain if you guys are looking for the most track-capable Corvette with manageable levels of power. Basically, if you want the convertible, it's another $4,000. I'd probably skip the convertible and just stick with the hardtop model, because you can remove the top if you want to have that open air experience. Now, from there on, you can choose between the 2LT, which is like $4,000 extra. I would definitely go with that to get the heated and cooled seats, the head-up display, the upgraded Bose audio system. The 3LT is like $6,000 more to get the upgraded leather, and then the nav standard, performance data recorder standard. You can get those as options on the other trim. I would skip that. But if you guys go for like my tester 3LT Stingray convertible with the automatic, it starts at like $80,000. The automatic is $1,800. I'd skip that too and go for the 7-speed manual with the active rev matching function. My tester has the $7,500 carbon ceramic brakes. It has the exposed carbon fiber package for $4,000. It has the performance data, performance data recorder, the nav system. I mean, all in, my tester is pretty expensive at $94,000. That is a lot of money for a Vette. And keep in mind, you could option up a Vette to be over 100 grand if you wanted to, but that really puts it at a new, price stratosphere. I would really expect that for a Z06, not the standard, Grand Sport or Stingray models. Oh God, I seriously would never get tired of doing that. This is just an incredibly capable track car that just puts a huge smile on your face. It looks good, it sounds good, it goes like bonkers, it handles well. It's just a very wide, rash, like American, go America car. Like, this is seriously a car that screams America every time I'm driving it. It gets a lot of attention wherever you take it. So Corvettes have definitely earned my respect. It'll be curious to see what kind of direction GM takes the Corvette with the C8. They are planning to go with that mid-engine route, which should be interesting. It's definitely a lot different from what they've done in the past. But again, the way I would probably equip a Grand Sport, I'd get the coupe model, go with the 2LT. You could probably keep the price around the low $80,000 mark, which at that point for me represents a good value. It's literally 20 grand cheaper than a lot of its European competitors from Jaguar or Porsche or Mercedes, if you guys are going to be comparing this car. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport convertible. If you're in the market for this type of vehicle and you want, V8 noises, the looks, the performance, and a little bit of value thrown in, the C7 Vette is definitely worth a look. But if you guys are also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook. And as always, guys, make sure and subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.